I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV for the week of September 14th, 2016. An incredibly awesome week for comics. It's all good, folks. This week, come in, pick up any new comic, and you'll be satisfied. All kinds of good stuff. Really, I could talk about dozens being my picks of the week, but if I had to pick one, if I had to settle on one, and it would be very difficult this week, it would be Detective Comics number 940, written by James Tynion IV, artwork by Eddie Barrows. This is part 7 of the introductory storyline, Rise of the Batman. Final chapter of the first arc by Tynion, and it goes out with a bang. All kinds of crazy stuff going on in here. If you are a DC Comics fan at all, you probably want to pick this issue up. Jaw-dropping stuff, folks. Just great. I never cared about Batwoman until I started reading this comic. Surprisingly, even though writers like Greg Rucka had written the character, it just never clicked with me. But as the leader of this team of young heroes and exploring the relationship with her renegade father, just super cool. Having Clayface part of this team, excellent. Getting to see Tim Drake working alongside Batman again is what I want to read. And we get a very, I don't want to say protective, but kind of protective fatherly Batman character, which is what I want to read. I don't want to read Batman being a hard ass all the time. I mean, that works sometimes, but when he's surrounded by this group of young heroes that he's supposed to be mentoring, he needs to act in a different way. So, as I mentioned, this is one of 2 DC books that left my jaw on the table as I was reading. And I think, if you, as I said, if you're a DC fan, you want to pick this up. And I'm curious to see where Tynion goes after this. He told a hell of a first story, so it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun ride.
My pick of the week this week is Hadrian's Wall, published by Image, written by Kyle Higgins, with art by Rod Reese, or possibly Rice. And there's a Siegel in there too. Siegel, co-story with Kyle Higgins. Hadrian's Wall's great. This is a NCIS in space kind of thing. Something's gone wrong on a space mission, and you get to feel that it's a lot like Alien, where you have the corporation that kind of has scrupulous, or does not necessarily have the most scruples, and they are all about profits, and they are seeming to be the ones controlling space travel because that's the people that can foot the bill for spending billions of dollars on rockets. So something goes wrong in space, and a guy who's, I think he's Earthbound, or is he on one of the other... The guy who's not involved in the stuff that went wrong gets called in to investigate. He's sort of like I don't want to say a fallen detective, but he's got a drug problem, and he's had a falling out with different people. And it's sort of implied that he's being brought in specifically because he'll close it quick and he won't look too closely. And then he gets on board the ship, which is called Hadrian's Wall. That's the name of the ship, right?
Sure.
Oh, it's right there on the cover, duh. And he starts to see that there's something wrong. Something's behind it, and it's a mystery as he digs through the pieces. There's a lot of great interpersonal stuff because he has past relationships with some different people on the crew. There's a lot of sketchy characters. There's cool space stuff. It's incredibly well-paced. We actually got previews of the first 4 issues of this series, so it's not just the first issue. It continues to be good. I was hooked. I'm horrified that I have to wait 5 months to find out what happens in the 5th issue.
Is the 5th issue, is it a 5-issue series or a 6-issue series?
I'm not sure. I think it might be 8 even.
Okay.
It's a mini series, but it's not. I don't think we got that close to the end. Maybe. But yeah, so Hadrian's Wall is great. If you like detective stuff, if you like mysteries, if you like science and space, it's just awesome. It's firing on all cylinders.
Agreed. When I got to the end of the 4th preview issue, I thought we got all 4 issues and it was a 4-issue miniseries, and got to the end, I'm like, I want to read what happens next. Hadrian's Wall, good stuff. Creator owned. Suicide Squad number 2 is out this week, and I really could not imagine a world where I was enjoying Suicide Squad as much as I am with the Rebirth title by Rob Williams, artwork by Jim Lee and Ivan Reis. Awesome. So you may recall I thoroughly dug the first issue. In fact, I thought that the kind of origin of Deadshot that they did as a backup in issue 1 was a better origin story than what we saw in film. But I really enjoyed the movie. You know, we went through this before. We gave our review, but I think it's really getting a lot of negativity from somewhere, and I don't know why, but I really enjoyed it, and that's why I picked up the first issue, and really loved the first issue, and I really love the second issue. So the Suicide Squad is trying to gain access to, is it the Black Vault? Black Room?
Yes.
The Red Room? I don't remember which one. It's some colored room. I think it's the Black Room, where all of the mystical stuff is held by, is it Argus or...
I thought it was in Russia.
I don't know where it is.
They're not in the U.S.
No,
That's why they had to send
They're not in the
Suicide
U.S., but
Squad.
the person, like, teleports them into the room.
Right.
So it could be anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. I
don't
assumed
know
it was the same facility, but we don't necessarily know that.
So they have to bust out a criminal who has the ability to get them into this room without setting off alarms and causing problems. At the end of the first issue, it looks like some of the Suicide Squad won't survive. They go to space so that they can like free fall into the water to gain access to to this prison. And it's got great dialogue, great action, amazing artwork from Jim Lee, and Ivan Rice does the backup story, which is a Captain Boomerang pseudo-origin.
It was great.
It is great. It is great. This book is the surprise hit for me of the DC Rebirth line. And I will tell you, I don't want to give too much away, but someone on the cover of this comic may not survive the issue.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's kind of a big deal. So that's much like Detective Comics this week. This is the second DC issue this week that just made my jaw drop and my eyes bulge and utter an audible gasp or what? I mean, it's just awesome stuff. If you're not reading Suicide Squad, you really should, even if you don't give two flips about Suicide Squad, as I did, because now I like it.
Next up on my list this week, we've got Doom Patrol #1. This is the launch title for DC's Young Animal imprint. What exactly a young animal is, I have no idea. But the guy in charge of it is Gerard Way, who you may remember from My Chemical Romance. And in comics, of course, the Umbrella Academy, both volumes, which were amazing and some of our best-selling independent graphic novels over the past several years. And we've also got art by Nick Darrington. One artist or two? Yes, I'm sorry, Nick Darrington is the drawer. And we've got letters by Todd Klein, which I know a lot of you like. And Doom Patrol is super freaking strange. If you've read any of Way's stuff, you will not be surprised by that fact. But we've got a lot of familiar characters. The Doom Patrol obviously has been around in the DC Universe for a pretty long time. Classically, Grant Morrison's run was also super strange and very Vertigo-y. It wasn't Vertigo at the time, but it's been reprinted with a Vertigo imprint, right? Yeah.
It may have been
I think the
Vertigo at
trades...
the time.
It might have been. So we've got an ambulance driver who's got a... what did we decide this was? A Gyro?
A Gyro, yes.
A Gyro that may have a universe inside it. And then we also see, or not necessarily a universe, but a planet inside it. We've got like a stripogram and people exploding and weird stuff. Robot Man's in here. I liked it. I have no idea what happened in this issue. Like, it's so bizarre. But I really was surprised by how much I liked the characters. Like, the ambulance drivers, they only get a handful of pages, but it's really interesting. Way does a great job of hooking you. And we get Doom Patrol type stuff. We see the Professor in here, and we also get a preview of the next Young Animals title, which is Shade the Changing Girl. Mm-hmm. And there's a cool peel and stick on the cover. You can peel this Gyro off and see what's beneath it.
We haven't done it yet.
I haven't done that. I'm saving that for a day when I need it.
Yes.
But yes, Doom Patrol #1 is just crazy. So if you like indie comics, I don't think you need to know much about Doom Patrol to follow this one, and it might be up your alley, especially if you liked Umbrella Academy.
And Gyros.
Yes.
Flash #6 makes my stack this week. It just continues to be awesome. Written by Joshua Williamson, artwork by Carmine D. Jan Domenico. If you've been reading this from the beginning, you get some payoff here as the identity of Godspeed is revealed, and it's Nicolas Cage. No.
I would read that.
Yes. So that's all you need to know, really. Godspeed's identity is revealed, Flash battles, artwork continues to be amazing. Williamson is writing a great Flash story here, and I'm reading more DC comics than I have in a lifetime. Just because they are so awesome. Every week, if you follow us on Twitter, and it's at Alter Ego Comics, we tweet out last week's bestsellers, and last week the top 5 was all DC comics. So the public is responding as well to Rebirth because the stories are awesome, and that's what's important.
Next up for me is Mockingbird number 7. And this was a neck-and-neck contender for Pick of the Week for me. Every issue of Mockingbird has been fun, and it just keeps getting better and better. It's written by Chelsea Kane, with art by Kate Niemczyk. So last issue, Bobby and Hunter were lured onto a nerd cruise into the Bermuda Triangle. And that is exactly what it sounds like, yes. Someone has suggested to Bobby that they have information about Clint Barton's trial, which of course in the other books we've already seen resolved, but it's still playing out here, and it's super, super great. There's a million geek references. I mean, they're using actual people from the geek world. Paul and Storm are in here, and a very passing reference to Keith Baker, which I loved. And I'm just naming people, you don't know who they are, aren't I? Okay, never mind. But it's funny. It's great. It has so much of a Hawkeye feel, the Fraction. The way they use a lot of graphical representations to show things, like there's a scene where they're talking about the different people, and then we just see little bubbles of what type of drinks they like to drink. So you've got Chardonnay and Cowboy and whiskey, and it's just amazing. It's fun. You don't have to know anything about Mockingbird to read the series and enjoy it, because I know jack all about Mockingbird. She's smart, she's funny, she kicks all kinds of butt. Although I do question some of the knots they use here. I don't think their descriptions are accurate to what the knots are actually used for, but that's just on me. So yeah, there's a comic with a diagram of knots, and it plays into the plot. That's what you're in for, right? That's what you're looking for, is the knot comic? But yeah, Mockingbird is just great every time it comes out.
And I've heard from several people that you're kind of getting tired of the Civil War branding on comics that have nothing to do with Civil War, or maybe you're burned out on events. This is branded Civil War II probably because of the passing mention of Hawkeye, but it stands on its own as a great series. So if you want to read a Marvel book that's just fantastic and has really no connection to anything else that's going on in the Marvel Universe, Mockingbird is it. My final pick this week is Spider-Man number 8. This is branded a Civil War II tie-in, and it actually is a Civil War II tie-in. It absolutely is. But it takes us back to about 3 months ago. So Marvel's got to get their timeline in sync, and that's probably why Civil War II is on this crazy schedule. The reason I mention this, of course, you know that I love Brian Michael Bendis. You know that I'm a big fan of Miles Morales. But this gets some great dialogue moments in the first half between Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Miles. But more importantly to me is the interaction between Nova, Ms. Marvel, and Spider-Man, because this really has me pumped to read Mark Waid's Champion series that comes out, which is the super team made up of all the new, younger Marvel heroes. So it takes me back to reading comics as a kid when these characters didn't have maybe so much baggage and so much history behind them, even though they did at the time. I mean, Spider-Man had 20 years of issues when I started to read it. But it feels like, the young heroes are fresh, they're similar, familiar, but different, and the way that they interact with each other really reminds me of the Marvel Universe of the 1970s and 80s. So, really looking forward to Champions. That will be out in later this month, right?
I think so. Either the end of this month or the beginning of next.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I really like that book too. It was great.
Everything is great this week, really. We're not lying.
Seriously, there was very little, so a quick twofer, books that are still great. All New X-Men, written by Dennis Hopeless, art by Mark Bagley, who's always awesome. Idie and Kid Apocalypse, that's not his name, Evan, take Bobby to a gay club in Florida, in Miami, to try and get him comfortable talking to men now that he's out of the closet. Which is great. It's super hilarious because Bobby can't really flirt because he's a teenager from the 60s who's a motor mouth all the time and doesn't really think before he says things. And it just works out amazingly. And then we get, I was really surprised with how the issue ended. It was great.
He can't tell you.
I can't. It was good though. And Red Hood and the Outlaws number 2, it was excellent. Written by Scott Lobdell with art by Dexter Soy. It is the team up, how we find out, apparently the outlaws in this new incarnation are Red Hood, Artemis, who you may remember from the Amazons, and Bizarro. And we find out in this issue how Red Hood and Artemis get together and team up. Their interactions are amazingly funny. Just exceptionally awesome.
All right, and our parting shot this week, 2 trades out this week that you should be aware of. The first is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Volume 1 for those Power Ranger fans that haven't been picking up the single issues. If you prefer your comics in trade paperback graphic novel form, the first volume is out, and the series has been selling extremely well, favorably praised by Power Rangers fans.
And it's also written by Kyle Higgins, who wrote Hadrian's Wall, which we liked, and several of their properties over the last few years. So they've got a maybe not A-list, but a strong B-list writer on it, which is good for a licensed title.
Sorry, Kyle.
Hey, it is what it is, man. And next up, we've also got the graphic novel of The Fixx, written by Nick Spencer with art by Steve Lieber. Josh, where have I heard that team before? That's the team behind Superior Foes of SpiderMan, which was amazing and blew my mind a couple years back. This is the first 4 issues for $9.99. Like all Image First Volume trades, it's awesome. This one is called Where Beagles Dare. It is dirty cops who you still like, even though they're incompetent and corrupt. It is humorous and fun on every level. It's almost like watching a Coen Brothers movie. A comedy of errors for horrible people, but it ends up being very fun.
I would amend that to say it's funnier than a Coen Brothers movie.
Well, yeah.
Because I'm not a huge fan of Coen Brothers movies, but I really dig The Fixx. And that's it for this week. Man, you need to get to your local comic shop, and if you're in Lima, Ohio, that would be us, and pick up some of this great stuff that came out this week. It's a great week to be a comic fan. Great. All right, well, that is it for this week. If you liked the episode, give us a thumbs up on YouTube, and make sure to hit the subscribe button so you're kept in the loop whenever we add new videos to our channel. If you do have any questions about this week's comics or comics in general, please leave them in the comments below, and we will get to them. As always, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.